good. Now we're going to look at something called breath control or breathing. And I want you to think of something if you get into shooting like this. You and your enemy are in a race to put the other one down as quickly as possible. And essentially, you have the rest of your life to do it. Because if you do it wrong and he beats you to it, then you're going to come in second place. And the trophy for that is not worth getting. Now, I want to point something out. Many people push for speeds. Go, 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 go! And you'll see them on the range, and they're shooting terribly. What you need to do is do crawl, walk, run. And on that, you need to have all of the sequences and the steps in there. And breathing is very important. You will maybe beat the other guy to the draw, but you'll miss, and he will have a slightly slower speed, but he's a lot more deliberate, and he's going to come up with his rifle, and he's going to put you down. So you want to make sure that you not only have speed, but more importantly, you have all of these sequences. Because I know some people are thinking, I don't have time for all this. When I go to the range, bam, come the targets, and bam, 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 go the bullets. And I'm only shooting from 14 feet away, so I can hit everything. I don't need this. Well, you get a little further away, and this breath control issue is going to be just that. It's going to be an issue. So pay close attention. And there's an acronym that they will use, and I use it to this day. And by the way, I have used that same acronym running through my mind in combat. I was thinking brass, breathe, relax, aim, stop, squeeze, hoorah. So, and that's when I was wearing an Army uniform when I did it. So I know the Army has made up their own acronym because of the arrogance of inter-service rivalry. They refuse to use the same one the Marine Corps does, even though I believe across the board Marines tend to be better shooters. I know, bring up your anecdote about this guy you know who has a cousin whose brother knows somebody else who knew an Army guy who one time shot better than a Marine. Roger, got it. Anecdote, not valid. Okay, so pay attention to the next part here where we talk about breath control. All right.
To maintain sight alignment and sight picture, the Marine's focus should shift repeatedly from the front sight post to the target until correct sight alignment and sight picture are obtained.
All right, did you notice in the video there were a couple of things. First of all, I want you to practice the breath control for slow fire. I know, we're going to be shooting rapidly, got it, but we're training, okay? You start out crawl, walk, run, okay? So trust me, practice the slow one, because the rapid one's going to build upon the slow one. And you can practice this during the day. I used to practice taking a breath, let it out, and watch, and notice how steady your body gets. And notice that 3-second pause. Notice these things about your body. Part of being a good shooter is understanding how your body operates and working with it. You can't fight some things that your body's going to do. It would be great if you didn't need to breathe or blink. You'd be the ultimate shooting machine. But the fact is you do. And you have a pulse rate as well. And all of these things, the further back you are from the target, the more they affect it. Or, put another way, the more stressors that you have on you there, the more accelerated your breathing and your heart rate is going to be, and your eye movement. You're going to be blinking your eyes a lot, and you're going to be getting tunnel vision. All of these things are going to occur. So you'll need to really focus on getting into a cycle and tuning everything else out if at all possible. So when we go into this, also keep in mind they mentioned about physical condition. Okay, I'm just mentioning that because if you're not in good shape, your breathing is going to be a little bit more difficult, especially when you get under stress. You're going to be panting and your heart rate's going to be up so high, your tunnel vision is going to kick in. When you get under a lot of blood pressure, tunnel vision will kick in and you will be not seeing much. And when that happens, what people do is they are looking around a lot more because they're naturally concerned that the enemy may be getting around behind them. And sometimes in shootings, they found with police officers, they're going to back up a little bit and crawfish away because they're not sure, they can't see what's behind them or beside them. They do this, it's like putting little blinders on. So watch the next sequence here about rapid now, and you'll notice that we build upon what we just learned in the slow.
Proper breath control is critical to the aiming process. Breathing causes the body to move. The movement transfers to the rifle, making it impossible to maintain proper sight picture. Breath control allows the Marine to fire the rifle at the moment of least movement. It is critical that Marines interrupt their breathing at a point of natural respiratory pause before firing a long-range shot or a precision shot from any distance. A respiratory cycle, inhaling and exhaling, lasts about 4 to 5 seconds. Between respiratory cycles, there is a natural pause of 2 to 3 seconds. During this natural respiratory pause, your breathing muscles are relaxed and your rifle sights settle at their natural point of aim. The shot should be fired at this point. Some Marines can extend this natural pause up to 15 seconds to fire a shot. The pause should only last as long as you feel comfortable with it. The duration of the pause really depends on your physical condition and lung capacity. Holding your breath longer than is comfortable will result in a lack of oxygen. This may cause your vision to deteriorate and may also affect your ability to focus on the sights. These are the techniques of applying breath control for a precision shot. Breathe naturally until your sight picture begins to settle. Then take a slightly deeper breath. Exhale and stop breathing at the natural respiratory pause. You then fire the shot during the natural respiratory pause.
Okay, in the video, he talked about a term called natural point of aim. And I need to discuss that real quick. It's sort of a horse before the cart, chicken before the egg type scenario. I can't tell you about natural point of aim without telling you about sight alignment, sight picture. But to build on sight alignment, sight picture, we need to understand natural point of aim. So I have my training aid here, the only thing legal to have in the barracks. And I have set my stock to the normal position for this, for demonstration purposes. Weapon is safe, of course. Yes, it's a training aid. It's a toy, essentially. And what you want to do when you are shooting is you want to get in a good position, and these positions will come later. But the natural point of aim is where when you're in a good position and you're looking through your sights and you have good sight alignment, sight picture, you want to take a breath, let it out, and when you take the breath, you want to close your eyes, both eyes, because bear with me for a second. And you want to open your eye when you get to where you think the place is to naturally sort of cut your breath off, where you would squeeze your trigger. And then you want to open your eye. You want to open your eye and look. And if you are not naturally on the target, you want to shift your feet, not your upper body, your feet. And what's going to happen is this is going to move the entire shooting platform, which is you, and you're going to get closer, and then you're going to do it again. Breathe in, let it out, choke it off, open your eyes again, and repeat the process until you are naturally on the target. And then you're going to practice this endlessly. And the reason you want to do this is so that if you look out, you see a target, you bring the weapon up into your shoulder. What's going to happen is your body, as you're bringing the weapon up, is going to naturally shift your feet or whatever you need to around so that you are stable underneath the weapon. What you don't want to do is have the habit that you see a target and you do this, and you don't even bother to move your body around. What you want to do is you just naturally flow your body around like so into the target. Okay, very simple, and yet that concept is missed because it's not practiced. So natural point of aim is going to help you make the difference between you being an average or poor shot and being a good or possibly even a great shot, maybe even a legendary shot, maybe watching this video. I have some teen viewers out there, maybe one of you, young man, young lady, you may become one of the next national match winners. I hope so. I hope I have the honor of having a small piece of your initial introduction. So pay attention to this next section where we want to talk about this more.
During rapid fire, you should breathe after each shot is fired. This establishes a rhythm for shooting. Stop breathing at your natural respiratory pause and assess your natural point of aim. Then take a slightly deeper breath. Exhale and stop breathing at the natural respiratory pause while applying pressure to the trigger. You will fire the shot as the rifle settles on the natural point of aim during the natural respiratory pause. You then simply repeat this process for every shot fired during rapid fire.
Also in this next sequence, you're going to see trigger control. And you'll notice we start out, even back in the 80s or 90s, the finger was not kept on the trigger. I don't know who started that trend of walking around with your finger on the trigger, but I think it was Hollywood. And last time I checked, that's not reality. Those are movies. I have to say that because some folks are a bit confused. By the way, there are no zombies. Those are also fictional characters. I understand that that's a good metaphor at times, but it's not an accurate one because if you're thinking of defending yourself from zombies, they move too slow and they don't carry guns around. That's not going to be your threat. You have one that's going to be very real, credible, and etc. See my video series, Threats to Preppers, for my take on that matter. Watch how trigger control affects things as well. So you're starting to see there's a lot more to it than just sticking a rifle in your shoulder and yanking on that trigger with your booger hooker. Pay attention to trigger control. This is good stuff.
Trigger control must be employed to shoot accurately. Trigger control is the skillful manipulation of the trigger that causes the rifle to fire without disturbing sight alignment and sight picture. While pulling the trigger is a physical process, controlling the trigger is a mental process. A firm grip is essential for good trigger control. The grip should be established before starting the application of trigger control and maintained throughout the duration of the shot. To establish a firm grip on the rifle, you must place the V formed between the thumb and index finger on the grip directly behind the trigger. You will place your fingers and thumb around the pistol grip in a location that allows your trigger finger to be placed naturally on the trigger, and the thumb in a position to operate the safety. Your grip should be firm enough to allow manipulation of the trigger straight to the rear without disturbing the sight.
Okay, one of the things you'll notice in there, and by the way, my knuckles are sore because I had a chat with my assistant instructor about using the word pull the trigger. I want you to understand something. We're talking about a steady, smooth application of pressure to the trigger. Now for me, I have just developed where I put a certain part of my finger on the trigger, and it happens to be what I was taught at sniper school, which is right here between the end of the finger and the first joint. It's right there on the pad. That for me is natural, but you may have shorter hands. You may have longer hands. You may want to reach in there. But here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to pull on the trigger. Okay. What you want to do is you want to have a smooth, steady application of pressure to the trigger. And you're going to have a lot easier trigger squeeze. And notice I use the word squeeze. Pull, you pull the trigger on a machine gun, okay? You put the weapon in your shoulder, or you grab the spades and you pull and you hold to the rear. 1, 2, 3, whatever mantra you choose. We used to say a little something a little ditty when we did it, but I won't repeat it here. It's not appropriate. However, finger, when you do place it on here, place it where they show you here, and pay attention to the part about where your finger goes naturally on the trigger. Now, keep in mind, some people want to hook their chow hook inside of there like this, and they want to grab with this part of the finger. That's probably not good unless you're missing some pieces like I am. And this is a modification. For most people, it should be this first joint there, right, just past my thumb. Some people may grab between right here in the middle of the joint. That's okay, but realize too, if it's starting to mess up your aim, you might want to work on it. Okay, so pay attention now to that, and ignore the oversight in my assistant instructor when he said trigger pull, and it should have been trigger squeeze.
The correct placement of the trigger finger must be understood before trigger control can be successfully mastered. Your trigger finger should contact the trigger naturally. No special effort should be made to place a certain portion of your finger on the trigger. Placement of the finger on the trigger depends on the size of your hand and how you grip the pistol grip. You will know that your placement is correct when you can manipulate the trigger straight to the rear without disturbing sight alignment.
All right, now we saw that. We're going to see there are two techniques of trigger control, and the first one we've been using pretty much all of us if we've been doing any shooting at all. If not, it's the one you just saw, which is going to be slow and steady. The other one's going to be what's called interrupted trigger control, and that's going to be under special and adverse conditions sometimes, so pay attention because it may be applicable. I want you to practice mostly on the former, but do at least know how to use the latter, because we'll build on that later on. But in the beginning, try not to learn both all at the same time. You'll get a little confused. Focus on the former. But we'll go ahead and throw the interrupted trigger control in here as well. So stay tuned.
There are two techniques of trigger control. The preferred method of trigger control is uninterrupted trigger control. After obtaining sight picture, you apply smooth, continuous pressure rearward on the trigger until the shot is fired. Remember, the tip of the front sight post should appear sharply focused and distinct as the shot is fired, known as interrupted trigger control. Interrupted trigger control is used in extremely windy conditions when the weapon will not settle, forcing the Marine to pause until the sights return to his aiming point. To perform interrupted trigger control, pull the trigger to the rear until an error is detected in the aiming process. When this occurs, stop the rearward motion on the trigger, but maintain the pressure on the trigger until sight picture is achieved. When the sight picture settles, continue the rearward pressure on the trigger until the shot is fired. Do not try and force your rifle into the aiming point. Let the rifle move naturally toward and away from the aiming point on your target. If the rifle is moving toward the target, continuously apply pressure. However, if the rifle is moving away from the target or aiming point, hold your trigger pressure until the rifle starts drifting back toward your aiming point. Then apply pressure to the trigger. If the shot breaks as the sights are moving toward your aiming point, the shot will normally be inside your call.
All right, folks, I think we've had enough for today. Let's go ahead and call it quits. Let's go take a break, take 10 or whatever, and we'll come back in part 2, and we will have a look at the rest of this, and we'll probably back up just a little bit to overlap. But in conclusion, today we learned sight alignment, sight picture. We also learned natural point of aim. We learned about breath control. We learned about trigger squeeze, even though he called it pull. And we learned, when I spoke about natural point of aim, we're going to work on this a lot more. I hope that I taught you at least one thing today. And whenever I go to a class, I try to learn at least one thing. It doesn't matter if I think I know more or I do know more than the person who's teaching. There's always something to be learned. Maybe the good way, hopefully, sometimes not the good way. Hopefully today you learned some good things. I must close with this, rifle safety. Please, whenever handling weapons or firearms, always presume they are loaded. Never put your finger on the trigger. Leave the weapon on safe until you're ready and you're lined up on your target. And then finally, when you have children around, make sure they understand and don't presume that they will follow these. Safeguard your weapons. Lock them up if you have to. Keep them on your person. And also, some of the safe things we talked about earlier, there's a video up. I'd appreciate it if you go have a look again. If not, please always practice rifle safety. You don't want to be a tragedy. You don't want to take something that's a fun sport and a necessity and essential part to our prepping for what may be dark days ahead is going to be having to be proficient with firearms. And you can't be proficient if you've accidentally shot yourself or you've shot one of your friends. Even if you do recover from it, emotionally you'll always be very much degraded in your capacity to function normally. All right, folks, this has been the Maineprepper, and I must go. It's time for me to get to my next appointments. Thank you so much for subscribing. We are at 10,500 as of the making of this video. I really never thought I'd get past 500. I am humbled and I'm very grateful, especially for the quality of subs that I have. Many of you are better people than I am, and I appreciate your patience with me, and I appreciate your long-suffering attitude, and most importantly, your help and your prayers. All right, folks, have a great day, or if you're just going to take a short break and come back, the video should be right behind this one. If you just got the video today and it's brand new, give me a day or two. I'm still doing edits as we go along. Thank you, folks.